Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor. We were live, and I already shared my thoughts, but I'm so happy to get an expert chiming in on this. Welcome back, retired detective John Hubbard. He's been in the industry and doing this for 25 years. So much experience in the Tampa Bay area, actually Pinellas County to be exact. Thank you for being here, John.
Welcome.
Audience is excited to see you again, but thank you for being. Yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, if you're gonna talk about, I've got 25 years, you might as well just make it 34, because I did 25 at the agency and I did 9 here so far with my own agency. So
there you go.
Let's at least be accurate.
Over 35 years of experience. So that's the kind of wisdom you're getting here. And he's not afraid of calling out what he sees. And so I wanted to get you to echo what we're talking about here. So and apologies for some repeats on the live view. But so John, because a lot of this you've only backed up a lot of what I've thought, but a lot of people are sort of saying, "Oh, look, Chris Laundrie's finally stepping out. The Laundries have been asked to assist the search." Do you believe? Let's start there. Do you believe they were really asked to help the assist?
No, I don't. They were probably asked 3 weeks ago or a month ago, not now. I mean, it's so disingenuous. It's ridiculous. You know, this is just a play for them. I believe they're just playing in the public's eye. And their attorney's probably orchestrating it to alleviate a little bit of the pressure that's going to come to them. You know, when this is all said and done, the nets are going to be drawn up, and there's no doubt he and his wife are going to be caught up in that.
Interesting. And so and to get the quotes that Brian Enton has, sort of the last night they were sort of saying, "Oh, they've been asked." It was interesting, actually. I want to play it for you exactly. They said. The first report was Laundrie attorney Mr. Petito says Chris was asked to help police in the reserve today. Chris was asked to assist law enforcement in the search for Brian since the preserve has been closed to the public. Chris has not been able to look for Brian in the only place Chris and Roberta believe Brian may be. Unfortunately, Northport police have postponed Chris' involvement, but Chris and Roberta are hopeful there will be another opportunity. Now, the Northport police came out and actually made a statement saying, well, we wouldn't have made that call because this is the FBI's decision, not ours. You can also confirm that's the case, correct?
Of course.
So the lawyer's already caught in a lie, mixing up the cops with the FBI. Does he know the FBI? And I sort of said this, but do you think he knows the FBI can't confirm or deny, so he can sort of get away with taking credit?
Of course. Yeah, of course he knows that.
So that's probably a common trick lawyers do a lot, which is and the media and everybody just sort of buys it, and then they get some good PR here. But in the reality, this is all PR puff play to leak to Chris Cuomo. There's a tent, everything else. Go ahead. Sorry, what were we going to say?
I'm going to say, just remember, attorneys don't have to tell the truth, and most of the time they don't.
They don't have to tell the truth. How depressing is that? They do not. They don't have to tell the truth.
Not even in a courtroom, they don't have to tell the truth. They do not.
So here's Chris leaving with a bag, doing his PR play to go finally help the assistance because it's been closed and he hasn't been able to help because bullshit. The Northport police weren't letting him.
I'm sure that's Brian's lunch he's taking to him because he's probably hungry after 3 weeks.
Jesus. I love John doesn't give an F. He will call it like it is. So now here we go. Today's quote, Chris Laundrie is assisting law enforcement today in the search for Brian. Chris was asked to point out favorite trails or spots that Brian may have used in preserve. Although Chris and Roberta provided this information verbally 3 weeks ago, it's now thought that an on-site assistance may be better. The preserve has been closed and blah, 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 blah. The parents as well be cooperating. I mean, again, can you please help us call bullshit on this too?
Yeah, you can stop right there for a minute and let's take an aerial view, either with a drone or from one of the helicopters up there, and let's see how much credibility the FBI believes in this assistance right now. And let's see what the manpower is out there on the preserve. Oh, right. It's empty. They don't believe him either. I'm just saying, I hear what you say. I see what you do kind of thing. I mean, actions speak, not what comes out of your mouth. He could have helped a month ago, but they didn't.
Right. He didn't. That's the reality. And as we looked through it, the presence was not that big. In fact, here was a shot of him coming in a golf cart with a police officer heading in. The presence is not very big there. And then someone's saying here, Steve Cass, member for 2 months. Thank you so much. Yeah. WFLA reported it's a private golf court and could be private investigator. Would they allow them to search without police officers? Do you know if that could happen.
It could happen. Yeah, again, I don't think it's the FBI is not concerned about this. This is total BS. There would be at least a handful of canines out there right now tracking a live person. That's how dogs work. They go by scent. They can't tell, until we get into bloodhounds, which we haven't even discussed any of that. But typically, the police canines, they are looking for human scent. They can ignore all the raccoons and the deer and all of that and just track a human scent. And that preserve has been closed to the public, like you've reported. Well, guess what? It wouldn't take much to just let a dog loose and see if he finds a human. And I'll trust a dog's nose over your eyesight any day. So it just isn't happening. He's not out there.
Right. So the idea of this tent also that's being there, an active tent site, which would be an interesting thing to know is out there, given that the park's been closed, but not impossible for someone else to sort of duck in and do it. It'd be stupid of them to do. But do you believe that there's an active campsite, and what are the odds of that being Brian's?
They actually said it was a recent campsite, and once again, what is recent, and who are they? Are they some guy that can tell us? Are the coals hot? That would be recent to me. If there's some hot coals there, I'll buy into it. That you got a recent campsite. And then again, who is that's living out there? And if there is a campsite, somebody had to have done it. And a canine would be there to find that somebody. There's no doubt about it. There's no dogs out there. And the dogs are so much more advanced than we are in finding a human. It's just...
Right. Even Dog, the bounty hunter, who people want to make fun of, has dogs out with him as he does his searches.
There you go. It's until I see law enforcement show up with a real presence and some dogs in a helicopter. I'm sorry, but
well, and they wouldn't even let WFLA be filming there if this was an active. If they thought Brian was there, wouldn't they push all the news media out and they'd have their copters in? Which would be a huge sign that there's, when we see the dogs, when we see a larger presence, and we see all the copters coming in, that's your sign something's up.
You got it. Show me a real law enforcement presence, and it's not there. 20 cars, that's not going to get it.
So there we go. So everyone out there who's just sort of, we don't know what's going on. They're being, even WFLA. Because I don't want to call them out. I like JB here and everybody else, but it's like they just don't know. Do you think are they not allowed to say this sort of stuff on air? Do you think why don't the press more honest in sort of acknowledging the things that we're talking about?
Well, I'm not even going to go down the road about the press. So
I assume you'd say something negative.
They've just been dishonest for all these years. To me, when I was growing up, the press was just supposed to report the facts. Let us make our own opinions. But, unfortunately, they come in with their own side, like Mr. Como. He's probably the leader of the pack. They come in with their own agenda, and then they want to put it down your throat. I don't buy into that.
Well, I want to play this one more time for this clip here because it speaks volumes.
We do have breaking news in the Gabby Petito case. A source close to the Laundrie family has told me that law enforcement says they found fresh traces of a campsite in the reserve.
Now, I want to pause there. First off, red flag,
a friend of a friend of a friend told
of
me
the Laundries, who no one trusts, told Chris Cuomo that there's
who
fresh
no one
traces.
trusts.
Fresh traces of a campsite. So right out the gate, this is complete nonsense that we shouldn't take as facts.
Well, I could sell them some land about 100 miles west of there, cheap. I'm just saying, these guys. This is just for show. It's not news. It's only breaking because he says it's breaking.
Right.
It's worthless. It's not news at all. And he's wasting our tax dollars sending these guys out there for this little circus.
Right. And what's also just frustrating is you hear it when the Laundries are saying the tips to Chris Cuomo, they should be sending them to the FBI. And that's where this should be. And for them to get information from the FBI and not talk about certain things, but then suddenly start leaking things when it helps, as in, Brian was there. We were telling you guys the truth. Oh, and see, we're going to go help now. The
only thing it's allegedly helping is Mr. and Mrs. Laundrie, Chris and Roberta. It's not helping find Brian. Brian's not there. They know that, or they wouldn't be out there. If they wanted Brian to be found, first of all, they wouldn't have let him get away. They would have called the cops. As soon as he left the house, going down, they know what's going on. They're behind the entire deal. They know exactly what's going on, and that's why they hired an attorney to do the speaking for them, because they would get tripped up by somebody stupid like me, and so they're not going to do that. So,
exactly. But could they trip them up while they're out there? That was the question I have. Like, at this point, you have them out there. Can they start slyly asking some questions now that because the lawyer's not there?
So actually, legally, no. So if they're represented by counsel and you know that, as a cop, you cannot. They're off limits. You cannot ask them any questions.
Interesting.
Now,
Does that mean they still will?
No. But here's the deal. But the Laundries can initiate an interrogation, and then they could. So they're the only ones that could throw out that trump card and say, well, I do want to talk to you. I want to talk to you about this. And, I don't really know. I'm not out there, but the attorney could have said, you know what, you can answer questions as long as it just has to do with, his favorite trails and stuff like that. But if they start asking you, what time, when did you really see him? Where did he go? Who's his favorite relatives? All that stuff, that's going to be off limits. And the cops are not, listen, the feds have this. Hopefully they're not going to be so foolish as to try to ask questions and to obtain some evidence that's only going to get thrown out. So listen, I love talking to everybody. I usually can find a way to get the guy to talk to me and make it his idea.
Right.
And then I'm legit. But I'm not out there anymore. So it's.
But this could still be a way to humor them in a way to help them feel more at ease and actually find the proper sense. Correct?
I think that they're just finishing sewing up his bag of lies. He's gonna say, well, he told us this and he told us that. Yeah, I know he did. And guess what? And we sent out troops and did all that and found out. Again, Mr. Laundrie, you took us on a wild goose chase.
Right, because there's a PR move here where the lawyers and Laundries want to seem like we helped. We did try to help.
Correct.
See, we did
this.
Of
course, especially when, they're going to spend a few years in a federal pen. They don't want to do that. When they purposely, misled law enforcement to go a certain direction when they know, in fact, that it was different, that's going to cost them.
Indeed. So as we look over, and again, what the other question that's sort of huge red flags to me, that's like, why on earth would they bring the father if they genuinely thought Brian was there? Correct? Is that like a complete no-no to bring the father to apprehend the son, or would you?
I would bring him if I thought it would help. I certainly would bring him, but I just think it's disingenuous that it's 3 weeks later. Law enforcement.
No, but I'm saying if they thought Brian was actually there, would you really bring the parents to help to apprehend him? That is a tactic.
If I thought that would help the case and bring them out, a lot of times you have barricaded subjects and stuff like that. They want to talk to, because they're also suicidal. And you got to think that Brian, in this case, may be suicidal. Yeah. And if you can get a loved one, somebody that he respects and cares about what they think about him and his soul and whole 9 yards, that might help you bring him out. So, yeah, I wouldn't be beyond bringing the father out if I really thought it was going to help. But you can see the cops don't believe him. That's why they just sent out a couple of boys and said, hey, go out and entertain him, but there ain't nothing out there.
The lawyer is also saying that he thinks he's still alive and there in the Carlton Reserve. I mean, obviously you just admitted he's allowed to lie, so this could be a blatant lie, but you don't believe this, right? You think he's far gone.
I don't think he's in Florida. He'd be foolish to still be here.
Now, the lawyer, this is smart for the lawyer and everybody because it shows they're helping, and this is
that's
the theory,
the appearance.
Right? It's all an appearance.
It's the appearance, but even a jury, at the end of the day, when you're seated, got a jury, you're going to convince a jury that 3 weeks later, and after you've, put up all these roadblocks and the lawyers and everybody else, now 3 weeks later, after every media channel in the world says, oh, by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Laundrie, you're probably going to go to jail too. Maybe the attorneys are probably trying to tell them, well, here's the way we can try to soften that. So, I am your best, I'm your representative, and, I want to do what's right for you guys. And here's another ploy. Let's call Chris Cuomo. Oh, okay. Call him.
Sarah's asking, hey, John, we asked this. I don't even think he can properly answer this, to be honest, but I'll just, since you asked it, if he wants to tiptoe around it. Hi, John. Would the FBI have the Laundrie's house and phones bugged? Do you believe the parents hid him? Is there any? I don't know. However you want to answer that.
We spoke about that, I believe, yesterday. Anyway, so they can, but did they? I don't know. I have no way of knowing.
Right. Okay. There's their answer. And Ashley says, hallelujah. Finally, someone with common sense. Yeah, John's great. I love having him on here, and I'm grateful for him being here. I'm going to keep him for another couple minutes to take your questions, but I want to clip this for YouTube so you can get John perspective to confirm what I suspected. This is a PR play that we're watching right now. Don't believe everything you're seeing out there. This is a total opportunity for the Laundries to look better. I hope we're wrong, to be honest, John. I would love to find Brian immediately so we can end all this, but this.
Hey, Brian, if you're watching this, come on out. Just surrender.
Exactly. So please,
and that way you don't get killed.
Exactly. The longer he waits, the harder this will be for anybody, including himself. So I hope we're wrong. However, the optics of this don't look good, and everything looks like this is defense PR plays to help their defense early and distract longer, because they have to continue to tell their story if they've already aided and abetted. And the more they can tell here, the more they can get them in there, the better. But the fact that there isn't a large police presence here should tell you everything. And that's something I'm grateful we know now to look for in the future. Yeah, final word. Go ahead, John.
I was just saying, here's the real deal. If Chris Laundrie really wants to help, he's not calling Chris Como. He's calling the FBI. And, you'll just have to see him out there with the drone and try to figure out. You wouldn't even know that it was him. If it was truly working with the FBI, you wouldn't even know he was out there helping. They're making a big deal out of it by calling CNN, which, we'll just leave it at that. Their ratings are going down, by the way, anyway. So maybe, Mr. Como's trying to help get their ratings back by getting some of your viewers.
This is a ratings getter, and I was already making fun of it earlier before you got here. I don't believe Cuomo is an expert in this case at all. And so for him to sort of just jump in and say, we have a tip from the Laundries, the fact that he's taking that seriously, to me, is already the massive red flag of like, wait, who gave you this source? And he doesn't even attempt to push back on them. You know what I mean? It's entirely frustrating to watch them do that.
Mr. Como's a legend in his own mind. We all know that.
In his own mind. Well, we will keep the Como bashing down. I'll let you guys do it in the comments if you want. Make sure you check out Hubbard Investigations to support John here. If you have, don't bother him with tips and things. He's got his own busy workload. So grateful he's already fitting this in when he can and appearing. But if you need a private investigator, Hubbard Investigations is the place to call. Thank you for being here, John. If you want more coverage like this, make sure you hit that subscribe. We try and get as many experts to keep it real. Hit the bell for all alerts. Smash that like button. And if you want to see the full stream, you can always hit the join button to catch all of our live shows in their entirety, or just join in us every weekday, 12 o'clock Pacific. 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, PM, noon. If you're watching live, don't go anywhere. I want to ask John a couple more quick questions, but I'm clipping this so we can release this later because that's some damn good insight. Hallelujah. Finally, some serious information. Keeping it real.